Hello to Emanuel Licha, the brilliant filmmaker behind Zo Reken. This is Licha's second feature documentary. He's also works in installation, video installation, and photography. And his work has been shown at galleries and festivals all around the world. We also welcome Pascal Antoine, who plays the role of the shark bone driver, and I understand also worked as something of a fixer on the film. So congratulations on winning the Best Canadian Documentary Award at Hot Docs recently, a well-deserved distinction as we've just witnessed. Welcome to VIFF. Where are you both joining us from today?
I'm in Montreal.
I'm in sunny Central Florida.
Hello, and how's everybody doing? We're feeling good this morning?
Doing good, doing well. Thank you.
There's so much to discuss about the film. I feel like every frame is filled with such intimacy, such beauty, and a real sense of drama. You invite the audience to become immersed in this daily experience of regular Haitians, and we understand that their mobility has been disrupted in the capital city. And as we learn, this is brought on by years of international interference and government corruption, which the city is on the precipice of erupting into civil disobedience, in fact. So first, for the role of the driver, it's so foundational as our guide through these streets. Emmanuel, perhaps you can tell us a bit more about how you cast Pascal, and Pascal, maybe you can tell us why you chose to be a part of this project.
Yes, I met Pascal when I first went to Port-au-Prince. At the time I was starting to write the film. I knew I wanted to work on that object, on that vehicle, the 4x4s that are used by NGOs and humanitarian aid workers. And I knew that Haiti was the ideal country. It's been nicknamed the Republic of NGOs because it's the place where there are the highest number of humanitarian workers per inhabitant. I didn't know Haiti. I'd never been there, so it was really a place that I had to get acquainted with. So preparing the film, I started looking for someone who could guide me through the busy streets of Port-au-Prince, and it's through a online website dedicated to journalists seeking to hire fixers all over the world that I found Pascal's ad, or I can't remember if it was a text or an ad. Anyway, that's where I found his contact. So there was landing in Port-au-Prince, and Pascal was there to welcome me, and we spent a week together. His role was to guide me, drive through the streets, but very quickly talking to him and thinking about the project, what it would become, how it could be set in those streets. My conversations with Pascal became more and more profound. I heard Pascal explaining my project to people we met, and he would explain it better than I would. So I thought, oh, okay, this guy really gets what I'm trying to formulate. So later in the process, it was not clear at the time if there would be a driver. That character was not clear, but progressively, as it became clear that I would need a kind of mediator between the passengers and my questions, Pascal came as an evidence. So I was very glad he accepted to play that role, because it's clearly a role. He's not a driver. He has his own activities. So that was a real performance from him.
Are you an actor actually, Pascal?
No, some people say I am, or some people say I should be. Maybe that was a calling that I missed, but it's something that I was always in, the college plays and the high school plays. So yeah, in a way, I guess I am. In a way, I guess I am. but I guess just to my background, I mean, we did mention briefly that it was a little complicated. I was born in France of Haitian parents and grew up in New York City in the thick of the Haitian community. So I've always been raised knowing that I was Haitian, following the culture, the language, so on and so forth. My interests have always been in videography, cinematography. So that's what I've always done as a hobby, quasi professionally also. And eventually I ended up moving to Haiti in about 2013, and I was running a video production company there. And I lived in Haiti for quite some time. And when things started getting slow, a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you think of becoming a fixer? I didn't even know what a fixer was. And I joined a couple of online groups. Somebody eventually reached out to me and wrote an article about being a fixer in Haiti, which got me a lot of attention. And I believe that that is the article that Emanuel saw and finally reached out to me and called me. And I went to pick him up at the airport one day. And we spent, and you remember, you know this better than I do, Emanuel, was it a week driving around Port-au-Prince, and I was translating for him, so on and so forth. I loved the idea of the documentary, and months, if not, Emanuel left Haiti, went back home, but we did keep in touch. And then when Emanuel was finally ready to actually go into production, he kind of called me up and said, hey, I'm thinking, I'd like to put you in this. Would you like to be part of this? As more than a fixer, but actually be in the documentary. And I said yes, and I guess the rest is history.
A lot of brilliant history. That's an amazing story. Because often we think of documentary as being just purely factual. There's nothing staged about it, but in fact, most documentaries, there's so much that's been staged, and in this film, that's no exception. And I just want to mention that I found it interesting that the film sort of begins in darkness and song, and then it sort of ends in darkness and song, except and towards the end in a more somber note. And the music in the film is quite absorbing. Can you tell us a little bit more about the music and what is that incredible, the horn piece that's playing at the end?
Yes, the music was composed for the film by David Drury. So he's a Montreal composer. It's the first time I use music in one of my films, and I mean, David is someone I know. I've seen his work. He composes a lot for film, for documentary films. He also does sound installation. I know he's very aware of spaces, of the places where he intervenes. So I was very sensitive to his work. So I knew he would be a composer. I could tell that I like music that doesn't sound like music. I didn't want a melody, or I didn't want some kind of sound that would have not much to do with the main object of the film, of the vehicle. So he came up with the idea of trying to work on the machinery of the idea of the machinery of this vehicle, the pipes, the fluids, and there's one instrument that came up almost immediately in our conversation, and it was the trumpet. So Philippe Batica, Montreal musician, did the recording sessions with David, and came up with those many moments, long hours of improvisation, trying to make as little notes as possible, but rather sound. So that's where you hear the voice, but the air coming out of his mouth through the instrument, and it had to make an echo to this object, while at the same time one important aspect of of the film was to clearly stay away from, I would say, most of the images we see on Haiti, which show misery, poverty. What I experienced first when I went before shooting for that week with I spent with Pascal, and then during the shooting is a very noble city and country and people, and I wanted a music that would emphasize that aspect, that's very noble aspect. So that's how I mean, David, and in our discussion, came up with this almost jazzy atmosphere, smoky atmosphere that we would relate more to black and white films on New York, or something that would give the elegance, I would say the smoky elegance of Port-au-Prince. So that were the thread on which from which we worked for the music, and that David mastered, I think.
That final piece is just so great. It even, as you mentioned, you can hear the breathing. It's almost like a labored breathing, which really feels like how the people are feeling in that moment as well. Let's maybe just jump back to the beginning of the documentary for a minute. When we first see the Jeep and we travel inside it for a short while, Pascal, you are trying to avoid blockades, and but we haven't actually seen the fires or the tension yet in the streets. However, from the driver, there's this kind of palpable sense of being trapped in a situation with the passengers. And I could personally feel my anxiety rising for you and for your safety. Why was it important to begin with these scenes? And Pascal, did you ever feel that the crew was in serious danger?
I always felt the crew was in serious danger.
Oh gosh. Okay.
You have to understand, there was a lot of, right before the trip, there was a lot of back and forth. Things were deteriorating in Haiti. I had just been in Haiti on another project. I came back to Florida for a little while. Emanuel had given me a call. You know, it was almost time to go back to finish this project. And things had deteriorated. They were already bad when I was there. Things had deteriorated so much that there was a big question as to whether or not we were actually going to go. Emanuel called me. I met the crew virtually on a Zoom call. Met the crew, and we had a brief discussion. And then I was told, okay, we're gonna think about this, and I will let you know whether or not we're actually going. So in my mind, okay, I'm like, oh, Emanuel's gonna call me back and say, no, we've decided we're not gonna go anymore. Things have deteriorated a little too much. And so I'm just kind of like, just kind of chilling out. And then I get a call back saying, no, we've decided to go. We've decided to go. So of course, quick pack, get a plane ticket, and head to Haiti. On, might I add, a very empty flight. As far as my flight, a very empty flight. Not too many people were going. So of course, paramount was just keeping everybody safe. And usually when things deteriorate to that degree in Haiti, while I was actually there for quite a while, my solution was just don't go out. But in this case, of course, I didn't have that luxury because we were a crew. We had a project that we wanted to complete. So we were out and about quite a lot. So those barricades were real. The feeling of fright that you said was palpable was absolutely real. And I never really got to the point where I had some huge doubts, but my antenna were always out, trying to make sure that everybody was safe, on top of making sure that I played my role. So it was very real. It was very real.
Sure, and it feels real. I mean, it is real. Everything is going on. But conversely to that, the promise of safety that the vehicle also presents is so much to the point that it feels like whatever is said in the Jeep also stays in the Jeep. And Emanuel, you were able to create this kind of intimacy. Did you ask the passengers to reveal their thoughts about colonialism, feminism, the socioeconomic state of the country? These are very big conversations to have, which is in a sort of ostensibly a taxi situation. How did that, were you coaxing people? How did that come about?
I mean, some of the passengers are people that we chose, that we contacted them in advance. We worked from Montreal. I worked very closely with Telus, a Haitian sociologist, professor at Université d'État d'Haïti, but currently doing his PhD in Montreal. So I was lucky to have him by my side. We worked for almost a year trying to find people, contact people, explain the project. So there were some of the passengers are people that we wanted to have in the vehicle. Some others are people we met in Port-au-Prince. We were advertising in a way, announcing what we were doing. We had a kind of magnetic poster on two doors of the vehicle, announcing that we were doing a documentary on Zo Reken, on that vehicle. Do you have a story to tell, with a phone number? And some people called us, wanted to participate. Others just saw us in the street and wanted to participate as well. So there's a mix of people that we knew had something to say that we wanted to hear. Definitely, activist or feminist or environment activists were, very important for me. So I wanted to have those talks, and everybody we were explaining that the aim of the film was to comment on that Zo Reken, what it means, and very importantly was to, in a way, kind of hijack that vehicle because it's normally used for humanitarian workers, very often white people. So the first decision was to forbid the access to white people. Of course, I'm the main contradiction in that story, and I think it's really part of the DNA of the film, this contradiction. I'm totally fully aware of, but I think it also functioned as a tool for the film. But I didn't want any more of them. The idea was to really open that vehicle to people who mostly don't have the chance to come into those trucks. As Lionel Trouillot, a writer, says in the film, there are those people who are in the vehicle and those who look at them thinking those people are not one of us. So I wanted to, in a way, try to decolonize that vehicle and give access to people we're not used to see. And the only fact, and that was the main idea of the film, that being inside that vehicle triggers a kind of way of talking of subjects. As we know, when we travel by car, by train, we don't say the same thing if we are in a plane, or if we're in a truck, or if we're in a car, or if we're in a church, or if we, all kind of spaces trigger a different kind of discourse. So my idea was this one, and we would approach the future, the potential passengers with very little indication. We talk to them. I would talk to them maybe for 3-4 minutes. Then I would present Pascal and said, okay, now you're in the hands of Pascal. I would slowly move away, pretending I had something technical to do, to let them connect and have a kind of bounding. And then they were together in the truck. We were there. I would sometimes give a little note, a written note to Pascal, to maybe, to make another question going in that sense or the other. But mostly Pascal was the main interlocutor, and as I said, he had a full knowledge of and understanding of what I was trying to achieve. So it went very smoothly from then on.
Well, obviously that's where the sentiments of a very good documentary filmmaker come in, because you're able to observe those moments and those discussions and pull out the pieces that are really valuable.
I wanted to just add a little something there, if you don't mind. One of the things, you know, even myself being in, you know, the business of producing and filming videos, I was really very keenly aware of Emanuel's way of doing things. And one of the things that I thought was really nice and really got people, one of the things with Haitians, a lot of, with not, you know, I was going to say especially with Haitians, but with everybody, people become very self-conscious when a camera turns on. Emanuel and the crew had a way of filming where people didn't even realize that the camera was on. So a lot of the things that they said were exceptionally candid. And I really enjoyed that. Even me, a lot of times I completely forgot that the camera was there. And I was like, oh, did they just get that? And, you know, and I kind of, you know, in my peripheral vision, I can tell, oh yeah, they did get that. Oh, that's great. That's great. So I thought that was a really good tactic and a way to just get the most candid conversations possible.
Well, I had no idea you were even attached to the film at all. I mean, when I first watched it, I you know, because you even do remark, like, I'm just staying out of this. I don't want to get into it. And I think that's like, wow, that is exactly what a guy would say if he was in that situation. It's crazy. And we'll wrap up here. It's obviously difficult to speak only about the film considering the recent upheaval and assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. By happenstance, you've captured this exact moment of civil outrage directly before things went sideways. Do either of you want to comment on that? I mean, you don't have to, obviously, that's not what the film is about. I just think it would be a little strange to leave it unsaid. And if there's anything else you'd like to say about the film as a final word, please, I'll hand it over to you.
I just want to say that a lot of the things that are going on now, I thought they would have happened while we were there. And to be honest, when I did leave Haiti after filming that, I thought, okay, things aren't going to get worse. Things can't get worse. I get back, we've got a coronavirus going on, and you know, and now with the assassination of the president and another major earthquake, and now with all of the the refugees, people actually from South America, Haitians who have been living in South America for quite some time, all scrambling now to get to the United States. I never saw this coming. I absolutely never saw this coming, because while we were filming this, I just was thinking to myself, it can't get worse. And lo and behold, it did. Sadly, it did. So it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, through doing a film, as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, I didn't know much about Haiti, but of course, through doing this film, I became profoundly attached to it and to the characters. I spent numerous hours not only shooting but also editing. So I feel very close to some of them, and it's I'd say a profound sadness that I witness what's happening now in Haiti. I have to say that when we were there, we were in a kind of euphoria. We were convinced that things would be happening in a positive way while we were there. We were convinced Jovenel Moïse would leave the presidency, that a popular movement would take over, and it would be a happy end. It didn't happen, and it got worse and worse. And of course, I would never now dare going to Haiti to shoot this film. It's become much too dangerous, and that's very extremely sad. You know.
The best of the people in Haiti in the film, and for avoiding the pitfalls of so many other films I've seen about the region that, you know, fall into this kind of poverty porn. I think you presented the country with dignity, and thank you so much for sharing it at VIFF. So congratulations on all the films so far.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.